Hey guys, Telegram Sam here. If you don't already know, I have an Instagram. It's Telegram underscore Sam underscore vinyl. So if you're on Instagram, check me out on there. But in today's video, I'm just going to be showing and talking about 10 of my favorite record finds that I found last year. I don't have anything crazy like a Butcher cover or any RL hot mixes, nothing crazy like that, but just some favorite finds for me, things that I had been looking for a while, or just things that were new discoveries for me and that I was excited to add to my collection. To be honest, I really didn't do that much record buying last year. I was really more focused on listening and appreciating to the records I already have in my collection. Probably around September or October, I had officially hit 1,000 records according to Discogs in my collection, which is kind of crazy. Because I think when I moved into this apartment in like October 2020, I probably only had like 150, 200 records, so that was a lot of record buying in a matter of 2 to 3 years. So I was really just focusing on appreciating what I have in my collection. But of course, me being me, I still bought records. But yeah, these are just 10 of my favorites that I found last year. These first three I actually bought from Trent Records. He uploads videos on YouTube as well. He's kind of like me. He doesn't do it as frequently as he used to, but every once in a while he'll upload videos. But we follow each other on Instagram, and he'll sometimes post some crazy stuff for sale on his Instagram stories, and these first there that I'm going to show came from one of those Instagram story purchases. This one was one I had been looking for a really long time. This is I Can't Stand the Rain, and Peebles promotional copy. This is an original 1974 U.S. press. Funk soul, for those of you who aren't familiar with Ann Peebles. This was her fourth studio album, probably her most well-known album, for the title track I Can't Stand the Rain, which is such a great song, and would later be covered by Tina Turner in the 80s. But yeah, just such a great record, one that anyone should have, especially if you're into soul music. Ann Peebles has quickly become one of my favorite soul singers. Her voice kind of reminds me a lot of like Al Green. It's just very smooth, and obviously she had the Memphis horn section on here, which I believe Al Green also used in his recordings as well. And yeah, just one I've been looking for a while, and just very stoked to have it in my collection. Another one I've been looking for a very long time. Just one of the greatest musicians, especially when it comes to bass playing. This is Jaco Pastorius' self-titled debut, original 1976 U.S. press, fusion, jazz, funk. Again, his debut solo album. He has worked with the Who's Who in the jazz world. Herbie Hancock plays on here. He worked with Joni Mitchell. He did stuff with Miles Davis. He was in Weather Report. But this is also a promo copy as well. It has the gold stamp, demonstration not for sale. But yeah, if you don't know Jaco Pastorius' story, it's kind of crazy. There's a great documentary called Jaco. I believe you can watch it free on YouTube. There's also a really great in-depth book that Bill Milkowski did about his life and his career. Sort of, the typical tortured genius story. He is probably one of the greatest bass players ever. Anyone in rock, soul, jazz will tell you that. He really revolutionized the way electric bass playing, especially in jazz, was looked at. I believe he's still one of the only electric bass jazz players that was voted into, I think it's the Jazz something Hall of Fame. It's one of the magazines. Downbeat, I think. Jazz Downbeat Hall of Fame. But yeah, just such a crazy story. Look him up, and he's such a fantastic player. Just look up the song Continuum or Portrait of Tracy, which is literally just him playing bass. It'll blow your mind. But yeah, so good. Very stoked to have that in the collection. Next up, we have another jazz album. This is You Must Believe in Spring, Bill Evans. Again, another gold stamp promo copy. This is original 1981 U.S. press jazz post bop. This was recorded in 1977 and was released 6 months after Bill Evans' death. Kind of a moody, depressing album. I did listen to this quite a bit, and just Bill Evans in general during this last fall winter. I don't know, when my normal depression turns into seasonal depression, I just really lean into like Bill Evans, Chet Baker sort of jazz, sort of that moody, dark. I don't know, it just makes me feel a little bit more understood and seen, I guess. But I don't know. I can't remember if I bought this or I bought something else and Trent just kind of threw this in, or it was like a clump. I don't remember. But yeah, don't really have any Bill Evans in my collection. I have stuff that he's played on, but I don't have any of his, standalone albums. So yeah, I'm very excited to get more Bill Evans into the collection. Next up, we have an Iggy and the Stooges record. Anyone who knows me knows I love Iggy Pop / the Stooges. I collect anything and everything they've ever released, and this was like a big hole that I had in my Iggy and the Stooges collection. This is a Metallic 2KO. Originally came out in 1976 as Metallic KO. This is a 1988 French press. So the original 1976 Metallic KO pressing was the Stooges' last official live performance, but when they were re-looking at the master tapes, when they wanted to re-release that album in the 80s, they realized that the master only had the last half of the February 9th, 1974 show, but opened with the first half of a show from October 6th, 1973. So it's kind of like a Frankenstein version of some of their last performances. But this has both the full February show and the full October show. I still need to get the original Metallic KO, but I was really excited to find this one, and this was a limited edition pressing on white vinyl. Here is one of the white vinyls. Love that picture. But yeah, it was just a hole I needed to fill in my Iggy and the Stooges collection, and yeah, still on search for an OG Metallic KO though. Next up, a band I really got into, especially early last year, that is Killing Joke, and I specifically really loved this album, Nighttime. I believe I bought this online, I can't remember from who, but this is an original 1985 UK press hard rock post-punk. This is their 5th studio album. I think when I was reading Henry Rollins' Stay Fanatic books, and he was talking about Killing Joke, and I kind of just really got into them and fell in love with the song 80s. For those Nirvana fans out there, Come As You Are. The beginning guitar intro is pretty much a complete ripoff of the guitar intro from that song. Just look it up. But yeah, so many great songs on here, like Nighttime. I played Love Like Blood in one of my 5 songs I'm obsessed with videos I put out a while ago. But yeah, this is just such a great album, and we unfortunately lost Georgie Walker, the guitar player, in November. So I'm just really stoked and happy to have this, and to have discovered Killing Joke, and you need to get more of their albums. Next up, this is kind of a nostalgic one for me, but this is the movie soundtrack to the movie The Trip. This originally came out in 1967, but this is a 1987 UK press psych rock. The soundtrack was done by the Electric Flag, and I've also been kind of going through a Buddy Miles thing recently. He was the drummer of Electric Flag and one of the founding members, and then he went on to play with Jimi Hendrix Band of Gypsies. He had his own band called the Buddy Miles Band, and then he was also in the 80s the lead vocalist for the California Raisins commercials and did like 2 records for that. But yeah, such a great drummer, singer, so cool. Anyways, but the reason I got this is because back in the day when I used to smoke the weed, this would be one of my favorite movies to watch. I don't even know how I found it. I think I just looked up trippy 60s movies on YouTube, and it was on YouTube for free, and I watched it and I just became really obsessed with it. It is very trippy. It definitely gives with the name. But essentially it was a Roger Corman movie that had Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper in it, kind of pre Easy Rider. I think this was like a year or two before Easy Rider came out, and Jack Nicholson actually wrote the screenplay for the trip. And it's about essentially Peter Fonda goes through a divorce and he decides he's going to try this LSD that everyone's taking and talking about. And essentially, you're just going through his trip with him, and it is quite trippy. But yeah, really cool movie, really cool trippy soundtrack. But yeah, this is definitely like just a nostalgia buy for me. I really need to watch this movie. I probably haven't seen it since, I was a teenager doing The Devil's Lettuce. Next up, another band, another live recording that I need to have in my collection. The New York Dolls are one of my all-time favorite bands. And this is another hole that needs to be filled in my New York Dolls collection. This is Red Patent Leather, 1984, French press, punk rock glam. A live recording of the last show the original lineup did in New York in March 1975. They would break up less than a month later in Florida while they were on tour. This was the famous show Malcolm McLaren did when he came to New York, I think for like some fashion thing that I think it was like a fashion exhibition or fashion show. He came to New York with Vivienne Westwood, kind of linked up with the New York Dolls, and was decided he was going to save the band and put on this very sort of controversial show where he decked out the band in these red leather costumes and famously had the big communist flag in the background, kind of Sex Pistols, like essentially any bad press is good press. That was sort of Malcolm McLaren's shtick and his sort of name to fame in managing a lot of these early punk bands. And this was just a hole that needed to be filled in. This is actually a really solid, nice recording, surprisingly. But yeah, I love the New York Dolls, and such a important key part in punk history, because who knows if Malcolm McLaren would have ever did what he did with the Sex Pistols if he hadn't first tried it out on the New York Dolls. So yeah, very cool piece of history to have. Next up, probably one of the best albums to come out of the 80s, just a perfect album, and a band I had recently really gotten into these last 4 to 6 months. But yeah, just a perfect album, one of the best to come out in the 80s. This is Songs from the Big Chair by Tears for Fears. This is an original 1985 US press, synth pop, new wave, their second studio album, and man, I've just been really going through Tears for Fears things lately, and I went to this antique store out in the middle of nowhere with two of my friends, and I found this like nearly pristine copy, just beautiful copy, but the sleeve barely have any wear or tear, and the record's in really mint condition. And I think it was like $20, which is pretty cheap considering most of these on Discogs go between like $30 and $40 now. But yeah, such a killer album. You have Shout, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Head Over Heels, which is my personal favorite Tears for Fears song. But yeah, I have just been really getting into them lately, and have been on the lookout for this record, and was really stoked that I found this original pristine copy. So next up, another perfect album, just perfect. This is Can't Buy a Thrill, Steely Dan. This is an original copy. It's originally came out in 1972, but this is a 1980 US press. Found this at the same place on the same day as the Tears for Fears record. Pop rock. This was Steely Dan's debut record, and really sort of set their tone for what they would come to do. Sort of a really interesting mix of folk, pop, rock. I don't know, every record was always slightly different, but you always knew it was Steely Dan. And you have Do It Again, Reeling in the Years, two of their most well-known songs. But yeah, just a perfect record. Just like, who doesn't love Steely Dan? This is like one of those records that just everyone should just have in their collection, whether or not you're into that sort of music or not. Everyone just should have a copy of this. Next up, this is kind of a weird one. This is a recent discovery for me. I've always loved old country music, you know, like Johnny Cash, Loretta Lynn, you know, the outlaw country, Waylon Jennings, Hank Williams Jr., Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard. But I had never heard of this person before until I really got into like outlaw country Instagram reels, and that's where I kind of discovered him. This is again by Johnny Paycheck. This is an original 1970 U.S. press. This is a DJ copy, and I'll show you the white labels on the record here in a minute. But this is a 1970 U.S. press country honky tonk. The last record he did with an independent label before he would sign with Epic, and this was about 2 or 3 years before he really sort of took on the sort of outlaw country badge. But yeah, I do really like this record. It's kind of like one of those things where I feel like I never really saw Johnny Paycheck records until I started seeing all these videos of him on Instagram. It's probably because I didn't really know who he was before then, but then all of a sudden I found this one on the same day in the same place as I found those Steely Dan and Tears for Fears records. But yeah, not as good as his outlaw country stuff, but it's still just like fun, just like honky tonk. You can just imagine the songs on this just playing in the background in some 70s dive bar out in the middle of nowhere in the South, living the life of a dog, keeping up with the Joneses, honky tonk and slow sad music. Like that's literally the name of all the songs on here. I just love it, and yeah, it just makes me happy. And only 6 people have this on Discogs, so I guess it's kind of rare. I mean, a copy has never been sold, so I don't know if these are really worth money or not. I think I paid like $5 or $10 at the antique store I found this at, so probably nothing too crazy. And plus, Johnny Paycheck released like, I think like 30 or 40 records in his lifetime, so it's not like he didn't release that many records. But yeah, just a cool find and cool new country discovery for me. And this is the white label DJ copy, not for sale labels, and the record's in beautiful condition. But yeah, those were 10 of some of my favorite record finds from last year. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know some of your favorite records that you found last year, if you crossed some stuff off your grail list. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.